we also have to be careful about, touching soda pop machines and even with the election polling location screens. What I recommend people to do is just bring some hand sanitizer with you. There should be not so much of a threat there, but there possibly with so many people touching the screen. What you can do is bring hand sanitizer, sanitize your hands. You can bring a little bit of a tissue to wipe the screen if you want. Don't put the chemical on the screen without talking to the election officials. They already have some things. There's some CDC guidance out there on what they should be doing. And then after you finish voting, use the hand sanitizer again. And, as soon as you get to a place, wash your hands. And so you'll be, that will help to decrease your likelihood of getting anything. Also, if you're at home, cleansing your surfaces with a dilute bleach solution actually inactivates and kills the virus. Those are the things to do. And there's also, people are starting to talk about the use of telemedicine and telehealth to reach out patient populations as well.
Let me get at least one of these callers in. I'm going to try and get a couple of you in before we go because, to have access to the former head of a public health system for a state is a big, big, big deal, and we don't take for granted that we have you, Dr. Damen Arnold, former director of the Illinois Department of Public Health. Let me go to Tim. Tim, what's on your mind?
Am I on yet?
Oh, you're on, Tim. What's on your mind, hon? Quickly.
My thing is the panic is being driven by our media, worldwide as well as local, and everywhere you hear the media, they don't say good morning, how are you doing? They basically say the coronavirus, it's right there in your car, it's knocking at your window, it's everywhere you go, you're all going to die. In Los Angeles, where my two children live, you can't buy toilet paper products, any kind of cleanser, all the alcohol stuff is on the pumps. Everything's gone. Absolute panic over something that has killed people in a very, very small percentage. I just would like to reach out to people and say, look, stop panicking, don't listen to the media. As soon as you hear the word coronavirus, change the channel to music. Listen to Chopin or Mozart.
What, Tim, hold on a minute. But, I hear you, but let me ask you this. Stay right here because I'd like for you to engage Dr. Arnold. Should we not listen to the media or should we really have a perspective check, right? Because I hear you, Tim. I hear you because I'm always a little skeptical when I hear, they're not empowering me. They're frightening me. They're panicking me. And and Dr. Arnold, help me because, they're not speaking to what the average working person has to do. That is to say, most working people do not work remotely. They don't have the opportunity. They cannot do that. They're not talking to me about, they're not pushing on policy. They're not asking the people running for president, hey, what about the average working man or woman who can't work remotely? What protections will they have? What do they have? And what can you do if you do get sick? Because some people, it's mandatory that you go to the hospital or get some kind of care. They get these massive bills that they're not getting any help for. It feels very disempowering, Dr. Arnold.
Yeah, and what he's saying has a basis of truth about whether we should be panicking. So when I was on military exercises going overseas, as in Iraq a couple of times, the first thing we had to do was to take our own pulse first, and then realize that we had to organize ourselves and have some kind of logical, rational response to the situation we were going into. So some of the things that you can do, first of all, get your routine seasonal influenza vaccination. If you have chronic medical conditions, pneumococcal vaccine for pneumonia maybe is very good for you. One of the things is that current vaccines are very effective. They help to differentiate the cause of the illness if you do become sick. So even if you had the regular flu, most people will think, this is the coronavirus, and this person needs to be, treated specially. We have a flu every year. 8% of the population, according to the CDC, will develop the flu every season. Only 45% of the people with a known effective vaccine get vaccinated. So we actually are under the threshold for herd immunity, where if you have at least 80 to 90% of the people vaccinated, then you actually protect the entire population. So get your regular flu vaccination. It's given in the fall. It's given in March. So please, get that done. That will help protect any further surges on the healthcare system as well down the road. It will take some of the pressure off the system for people coming in for seasonal flu that could have been prevented by a simple vaccination. And there are also a lot of counter vaccination myths, like thiomersal with autism, and they get you sick. All of these things are absolutely false. You should educate yourself on the myths of these things that are being put out there about getting vaccinations. And then we have to also consider that you should keep an adequate supply of your medication if you have an illness, for at least 30 days supply at home, and and get adequate chronic disease care early, so you're not trying to get into a healthcare system that's overcrowded by cases if they do occur.
Well, hold on. Let me just ask you this very very quickly, if you don't mind, because that was a story that I heard coming in today, and it's an experience that I've had. I try to have extra medications. I try to have a month plus, but your insurance will not pay for more than a month. And what if you're caught in the middle of a cycle? I mean, to me, this is where you also live in terms of making policy, because if I'm in the middle of my medication cycle, I can't go back and get it filled again, or I can't get 2 months because my insurance plan, no matter how great it is, will not allow it. What are we supposed to do then?
Yeah, and I think part of it is that with having there are some systems where they deliver medications to the home, and I know the VA system does that, and there are some situations where you can have medications delivered to the home. Also, you can actually talk to your provider about the access to medications as well, if you need them in an urgent situation. Family members picking up the medications, younger people going to pick it up, who are in their teens or early 20s, 30s, will minimize the person actually having to walk into a Walgreens if they are sick, and that is something that you should sort of plan for, to cover people who are potentially going to be running out of their medications. But at least a 30-day supply. As I was mentioning before, people becomes ill, and it's usually for a course of a couple of weeks. So hopefully you have enough medication there. But the key thing is to make sure you get yourself tuned up now if you have a chronic illness. We have these things called HEDIS standards, where they measure things like hemoglobin A1C for people with diabetes, and there's a list of them that we should be checking on. Your providers should be checking on if you have a chronic illness, and they should be reporting this. That shows how well controlled you are. So if you have a chronic disease, if you have well control going into potentially having a coronavirus infection, this hopefully will actually give you an edge over recovering from the virus, and without becoming very ill and potentially dying from this disease.
Dr. Damen Arnold, former director of the Illinois Department of Public Health, I want to thank you for being with us today. We're going to have you back because a lot of people, one of the things that you just did for us today was help to quell the panic. Because when what do they say, whom the gods would destroy, they first make you mad, they make you angry, they make you lose control of your emotions. And the thing is, people are surviving the coronavirus. They are. But now we're closing schools in Chicago, we're sending out warnings, so it's everywhere. And we're going to get you back on the show, Dr. Damen Arnold, so that we can talk about it, so that, we can be empowered. Knowledge is power. Blessings to you, Dr. Damen Arnold.
We were talking about the racial discrimination. One of the things is that we have migrant agricultural workers that come through the states every year, and we do have people who are migrant workers in Illinois. We should not be looking at that as a potential source of infection, because I can just see now with the current air of how administrations are attacking, approaching different issues,
Yes.
to make sure that they do not become stigmatized and that they actually have the ability to reach out and to get treatment and also, the supportive care. And then when the vaccination does become available, which I'm hoping is going to be less.
Absolutely. Get everybody, we get the help. Each one teach one, reach one. I'll see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Roosevelt.
Do you have a house or two flat and you'd like to sell quickly? Then call URB
Roosevelt. Okay, we're going to speak with Roosevelt very quickly, and then but we've got to say something to Dr. Arnold before you switch over.
Right.
Get a market-based,
He is on someone else's calling. Well, we'll talk to them too.
URBchicago.com is the area's oldest direct buyer of real estate.
Whoever's
They buy
calling
as
in.
is, even
Because,
properties that
everybody
are
calls in
boarded
at
up
the
have tax
end
liens
so
or
they can
building
talk on
code
the after
issues.
show.
Stop worrying about bad tenants, high payments, or even repairs you can't afford. If you own a house, apartment building, or even commercial real estate in rough condition, URBchicago.com gives you a fast way to sell at a fair market value. Call URB Chicago right now at 847-673-7575. That's 847-673-7575. Or visit URBchicago.com.
My name is Ruth Rusi. I volunteer with United Way, reading to children to help prepare them for a better academic future. I don't just wear
Ms.
the shirt.
Jackson, I really love your ending punchline. And your ending phrase, I really love it.
What
You always
happened?
get my attention every time.
What
But just
happened?
like what you said, you said to reach one, you must teach.
Oh, each one teach one, reach one.
Yes, like that. Yeah, I love those those
No,
like
bless
little
your
phrases.
heart.
Like,
Well,
it be getting my attention.
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bless your heart. Well, it just bless their heart. I think it might be genetic. These things come to me.
I love that about you. It's really
Tim
good.
and Roosevelt.
Who? Tim called back. Oh, Tim just want Tim. You just want to talk today, huh?
But my friends, my neighbors, I think we should just hug each other right now and just say, look, it's a caution, but it's not the plague. It's not the angel of death sitting on your shoulder all day long. We need to reassure each other that, I'm going to teach if I had little children, I would teach them how to sneeze, or I would have them. And I mean, Santita, this is where we're at. We can't be panicking and pushing each other aside to buy the last bottle of Lysol. And really, that's what's happening. And it's dog eat dog right now, and that's not a good sign.
And I think that you're right, because when we look at what we're doing to, our brothers and sisters in our human family, the Asian community, this is not right. It's not right. And the thing is, it of course it originated in Wuhan, China. But guess what? Viruses pop up everywhere, and what you need to do is figure out how people can get treated. Because we have seen, as Dr. Arnold pointed out, we don't have people who are Asian who are being treated for this. These are people who went over to Asia, or they were someplace else. I mean, because quite frankly, we're in a world where people fly, and people take trains, boats, and planes, and you know what? You can pick up anything anywhere. We're not disconnected from each other. We're all connected to each other, everybody. Period. So stop the blame game. Stop the shame game. Let's just get people well. Now, Roosevelt, what's on your mind? What's your comment, sweetie?
Good morning. Is it Tim?
Yes.
Yes, it's Tim. Your brother Tim.
Okay. Tim and Santita, I agree up to an extent, but I don't think you should turn off the media altogether, because from our federal government is a lot of misinformation. Here's some of the facts, and you can correct me, Santita, if I'm wrong. 2 days after the Super Tuesday, our president, within the span of 2 days, tweeted 14 times how he was concerned about Bernie Sanders getting chipped or getting the Democratic Party to steal his nomination.
and he tweeted 2 times only about the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
Last Friday, he had a press conference, and he said, this is what he said, word for word, and I quote, anybody that needs a test is gonna is gonna be able to get a test. That is false. That is not true. You said it yourself. I believe you said 1 out of every 1,000,000 is being tested, if I'm not mistaken.
Those were the initial numbers, and and I did say for the record that we shouldn't write off the mainstream media entirely. We need to put them in context. You have to put them in check because we now have entertainment companies that are giving us, as Attorney Patillo said in the first hour, infotainment. They're not giving us information. They're giving us information, infotainment, and remember who sponsors a lot of these television shows. A lot of our news programs. I mean, now you go to your doctor asking for asking for medication, which is very different than how it was when I grew up. You didn't even know the names of these medications. But I'm sorry, I digress. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are these. If it's not the media, let's concentrate on the media outside the United States. Let's see what's going on in South Korea. They have been testing hundreds of thousands of people. As soon as within a span of weeks, they had people testing.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the United States, we're the most powerful country, but we have a president in charge. Oh, I take that back. We have a vice president in charge that doesn't have any qualifications. He is there to cover up for the president. And as last Friday, I seen the press conference with the president wearing his MAGA hat, and he had the guys from the CDC, 3 of them, and they were lying for him. They were putting false information, and they're supposed to be the experts. So we cannot believe our government because our federal government, is covering up for the president because he's going to worry more about the stock market than he is about the coronavirus.
I would, if I could make this recommendation. I think it's I think and I've said this to you, countless times, Roosevelt. I think it's about more than the president, because every president that we have of late over the past few decades, they speak for various interests, and I think we need to look at that. Just as ACA was written in large measure by the insurance industry, and it's favored them, and you can see how it's played out. Not that originally it wasn't a good idea, but we see who wrote it. Look, at the end of the day, I think you have to ask everybody which side are they on and who their contributors are. Okay, period. Not just President Trump. See, part of my pushback on this whole period is that even when I look at it, I say I support Senator Bernie Sanders. One of the things that is concerning to me in the Democratic Party is that you have Vice President Biden who's running on civility. I'm going to be nicer, kinder. We need to unify. No, I need some policies, okay? Because the fact is, people without paid leave, whether it's the coronavirus or the next virus, they are not able to get off work and get well. If you want to stock up on your medicine, your insurance plan will not allow you to do that. So you got the government telling you to stock up, and you've got the insurance company telling you that you cannot do that. We've got some big issues here, and you have Democrats and Republicans who are in it. Medicare for all who want it. Are you serious? Democrats were talking about that. So I'm just saying, I would hope that we would refine our critique so you can really cure the bug, because the bug is bipartisan. We've got a bipartisan betrayal here, I think.
Well, no President Trump and Vice President Pence. Last Friday, yesterday, as a matter of fact, morning, he had Ben Carson, a doctor, and he didn't say anything. The president has given orders to keep a muzzle on anybody that talks. He doesn't want anybody to talk unless they go through Vice President Pence. I'm sorry, Santita, I have to push back on what you said.
No, I'm not. We agree with that. I'm just saying it's a little deeper than President Trump. It's not. No, honey, you can calm down. You don't have to shout. Just relax. The thing is, it's not just President Trump. I mean, look, after President Trump is out, wait one moment, either in 2020 or 2024, who are you going to be mad with then? Because the rot was in the system before he got here. And we're unwilling to look at that, Roosevelt. And I'm saying you think too no, one moment, I hear you, Roosevelt. You don't have to shout. Don't do that. The rot was already here. The problems were already in the system. So my question for you is, how are we going to cure the problems in the system? Yes, President Trump is problematic, but some Democrats are too. So I'm just saying, why don't you go to the heart of the matter, not to the heart of one person? I'm saying we're not going to get anywhere if we just look at one person as being the big problem for the system. One problem is the symptom of the problems in the system, but he ain't the cause. Sorry. You and I are going to disagree on that. And that's fine. We can disagree without being disagreeable. And you can say, I'm a Sanders supporter, so I feel a certain way. Okay. We all have our biases. I try to be fair, but heaven knows I'm not perfect. That having been said, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, a Tuskegee experiment did not happen under President Trump. These LSD experiments on our servicemen, that didn't happen under President Trump. I mean, come on. We've done some awful things down through the years. We need to acknowledge them and stop them. Period. I think. Roosevelt?
Where I push back on what you just said is this. If there was any other president, you say President Trump is not he is, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you the proof. But excuse me, here's the proof. He's crossed the line, Santita. I don't think President Obama would have done this. I don't think President Bush would have done this. This is a cover-up, just like the cover-up about Russia. They're doing.
You know what? That having been said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because you have other people who are supposed to be able to check him, and what you need to do is get Republicans who won't check him to do that. Because what? Because at the end of the day, Americans are still in charge, but we have to get up and and we have to take control of our government. We're the ones who have to do that.
Is in charge.
No, he's in charge. Let me tell you something. These people respond to us when we take a notion to rise up and vote, and when we start marching. Oh no, they do respond. Even President Obama said to the bankers in 2009, I believe it was, he said to them, wait a minute, I'm the only one standing in between you and the pitchforks. Because they are all afraid of an American public that is energized and that is active. That's real. So we're going to have to I'm not going. I disagree with you. In as far as saying I don't believe that we have no power. I don't believe that. I believe we don't use our power.
In closing, we had over 90% of people that wanted background checks on guns. Did that come about? 90% of the country. We had over 70% of the country that wanted witnesses in this fiasco in the Senate as far as what Mitch McConnell did. Did we have any power in that? Did we have any say-so? No.
There's power that we don't use. You know what? Because most of us don't even know who our representatives are. Okay? So I'm saying to you, I worked on Capitol Hill when I was in college. And every phone call, they've worked this out scientifically. Every phone call represents X number of voters. They already know this. Every letter represents X number of voters or X number of constituents, whether people vote or not. I'm saying to you, we have much more power than we know, and far more power than we use. I was looking at a speech that Reverend Jackson gave, oh my goodness, more than 30 years ago. And to see the number of people who were unregistered voters, because if you're not registered to vote in America, you are an unregistered voter. If you look at the people who did not vote, that is how we got Reagan. That is how we get so many people who, in hindsight, we say, or even in real time, I don't want him, I don't want her. Well, because you don't vote, because you don't get registered to vote. So I'm saying Americans have much more power than we even really believe that we have. We have to really understand how much power we have. That's all I'm saying to you, Roosevelt. That's all. And you and I can respectfully agree and agree to disagree. But I think that Americans have much more power. But we would have to put much more energy into making the system work. You know, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, who founded the Christ Universal Temple here in Chicago. She was a great woman of God. She said, you know, it works when you work it. It works when you work it. We have to make a decision to make things work. We're the ones. Things just don't happen by remote control. We have to get out and make the system work for us. That's the only way it's going to work. Roosevelt, your closing thought?
My closing thoughts are this. You did not address anything I said. Not a single thing. I gave you two examples of instances where we don't have the power because that power has been taken away from a wannabe dictator. We've never had this. We've never had a president that has treated the Constitution, that has treated the Supreme Court, that has treated our...
That's not where you started off, Roosevelt. Roosevelt, I need you to stay on one point. No, just stay on one point because you keep going all over the place. Stick to yeah, you are. Stick to one point. I have no. Well, first of all, you and I just fundamentally disagree. The way that our founders, as flawed as they were, the way they structured the Constitution, the way they structured this government so that we would not be a monarchy and that we'd be a republic, which is far away from a monarchy. You know what they did? Number one, they gave us a chance. They gave us the space in the Constitution to amend it. Where it's imperfect, make it more perfect. They gave us the space to grow. And they gave power to the people. At least there was a pathway to power for the people. The fact is, no one could vote in this society when the republic was founded, except propertied white men. Not even unpropertied white men had no space. Slowly but surely, we have amended the Constitution and amended our ways and our thinking so that at least on paper, is no longer true. I'm saying that America, the way our society has been structured, the way our Constitution has been written, we have power. We just have to use it. Far too often, we do not use the power that we have. And so that is my point with you. Now you went all the way back to the founding of the Republic or before the founding of the Republic. Look, if Americans didn't have power, we'd still have slavery. Americans made a decision to end slavery. Americans made a decision to grant women the franchise, the right to vote. America has made some decisions, and America needs to make some decisions today. Are we going to have a republic or are we going to have a monarchy? We can make that decision right now. And I'm not going to agree with you that Americans don't have that power, because I don't agree with that. At every let me finish. Of course you can say something. You've been saying a lot. I just disagree with you. And the history does not line up with you, Roosevelt. The fact is, Americans, when we have had enough, we have made some crucial decisions that have moved this society forward. Period. We have done that. If that were not the case, we'd still have sharecroppers. And we still have that to an extent, because that's what the farm workers are. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to move that ball along. But we have moved the ball along. Otherwise, I'd still be on a plantation, along with my other ancestors. But they moved the ball along. And some other people of goodwill moved the ball along. We have the power. We have to make a decision to use it, to exercise it. You know, there was something in this Michael Moore movie. Was it Fahrenheit 9/11? One of them. And they asked, he was in France, and it's very interesting because France, you know, we all moved toward liberty and justice and freedom at the same time. The French Revolution, the American Revolution, they were all at the same time. In fact, we were inspired by the French, and the French were inspired by us. They said, you know what's interesting about America? You know, in France, the government is afraid of us. But in America, you're afraid of your government. And it's that kind of thinking that keeps us on the plantation. Red, yellow, black, brown, and white. When we make a decision to make this society more fair, Bernie Sanders, he can call himself a socialist. I just think he's fulfilling the promise of FDR. They called FDR a traitor to his class because he was a wealthy guy who angered the people he grew up with. Because he said, you know what? I'm standing between you and the pitchforks. Because you do know you had a real socialist party that was alive in the United States at the turn of the last century through the 20s and 30s. Because people were angry. They were watching the wealthiest people in the world use the labor of the poor in this country, and they said, you know what? This is not what America's supposed to be about, and it's not. But we're the ones who made a decision and turned the country around, and you know what? We have to continue to do it. You know, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. I mean, you just have to continue to fight. And most of us, after we have won a battle, we put down, we just say, okay, I'm done. You can't do that. Because guess what? The oligarchs they're never done. They buy up television networks, they buy up radio stations, they buy up newspapers, and they buy up congressmen in the upper and lower houses of our legislature, state and federal, and then they write the laws and they control everything. Well, you have to join organizations that are going to advocate for you so you can push up against them. We're the ones with the power, Roosevelt. We've always had it. The sad thing is, most of us have not known it. And those people who come to us and tell us how much power we have, we allow the mainstream media and others to tell us that they're not electable. You have all these people who sit in the middle who say, you know what, we're not going to really change things, but I'm going to be nicer about it. Hey, I'm not feeling that. And I'm not signing up for that. I believe we can have universal single-payer health care. I believe that. We're the only industrialized nation that doesn't have it. I believe we can have that. I believe we can have a public school system that is equally excellent for every child in America, whether it's vocational academic education, they can have it. Or somewhere on the STEM spectrum or STEAM spectrum. I believe that. But we're the ones who have to make that decision. And when we make that decision, when we decide that America is going to be great for everybody, when we're going to make America great for everybody who's here, then America will be that. Until then, I'm not going to go into the kind of thinking that says we have no power, because I am not a slave. I appreciate my ancestors who were enslaved and who fought against it and who got out of it. And my obligation to them is to continue to fight against slavery every day. That's my obligation to them. To my great-grandmother, who was born a generation out of slavery. To my great-great-grandmother, who was born in it. Okay?
Can I speak?
Quickly,
I'd like to speak.
because I got to get out of here, Roosevelt.
Okay, let me just say this. I can only deal with what's in front of me. I can only deal with what I've seen. I'm 63 years old. All of my lifetime, I have never seen people put in cages until this man came into office.
Roosevelt, stop it. Roosevelt, stop. Roosevelt. Black people were not allowed to marry. No. You've got to talk about black people if you're going to talk about injustice in America. No, Roosevelt, stop it. This is the problem, because you are only dealing with pain that is particular to you. And I'm saying pain is never, one moment, Roosevelt. Roosevelt, wait a minute. Pain is never just, Roosevelt, pain is, the pain that you're feeling is pain that I feel. All you can see are the children in cages. I'm saying we put children in cages on slave plantations. Stop it, Roosevelt. You can only looking at your pain is, you know what, you're standing in between alliances that we could have with each other. When Andy Kang was just on here, when he said, let me tell you this, you stop shouting at me, Roosevelt, because you will not be heard by anybody else. I'm not going to have that. Now, what I'm saying to you is Andy Kang said, as someone who is a readily identifiable other, as an Asian American, part of his training is to fight racism toward black people in his community. He said, because what hurts them hurts me. And I'm saying to you, the kind of awfulness that you have seen these children put in cages, we've been doing this since before the Republic was started. Black people were treated horribly. And 90% of the native population has been eliminated.
Yes.
You can't just say, and I'm saying you're going to lose potential allies when you simply say, we've never seen this before. And I've said this to many of my Hispanic brothers and sisters. I'm like, sweetie, what did you think that we were in?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think this was fun time at Bernie's? What?
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing this since before the Republic was founded. We've been raping women since before the Republic was founded. Look at me. I am evidence of it.
Mm-hmm.
Black people are products of white forefathers and black foremothers. Bottom line. Mic drop on that. So let's, no. So I'm just saying to you, no. I mean, I hear you and I feel your pain. I hear you. But I'm here to tell you, when you tell an African American that we've never seen this kind of pain before, you are putting a dagger in my, one moment, you're putting a dagger in my gut. You did say it, and I can play it back for you.
Yes, you did.
No,
yes,
you don't need, you don't, we're not going to go through all of that. You just said, we have never seen someone put somebody, you just said, look, Lady B, get on the mic. Get on the mic. No, because I have other people, and and what is your background?
And my, Puerto Ricans are mixed with African American, and my ancestors were
You're a Latina.
I'm a Latina. I am, but our ancestors are from African American. And Roosevelt, come on now, this is not the first time. This come from. Oh, it was brought. Come on now. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But you said it. This is the first time you. No. Go.
3 years old. This is exactly what I said. I'm going to repeat it. Please pay attention. I'm 63 years old. All of my lifetime, I said I have never seen people put in cages. That is what I said. I didn't say anything.
And we were correcting you because they have been doing that. There's something called the Mississippi appendectomy. Black women were taken into the hospital and they thought they were getting an appendectomy. No. And this happened to Fannie Lou Hamer, and they were being sterilized. They were getting hysterectomies. I'm saying to you, if it's not cages, it's been something like cages. And so what I'm saying to you is you need to have a broader understanding of history and a broader application. Let me just share this with you. Well, because what you want to do is misstate, and then you want to turn things around. I can't let you do that.
Finish. You guys, listen to me, please. If I'm gonna say what I just said, I'm gonna say it again. I'm 63 years old. I have never seen people, me, Roosevelt, I've never seen people put in cages until now.
And what we're trying to tell you is you need a broader, deeper reading of history. Roosevelt. You need a broader, deeper reading of history because it has no, because it's not
the first time.
No, because you keep going back to that point and it's false. Your premise is false. Your premise is false.
It's false.
No, you won't. And look, no, you know what? Let me tell you, you're gonna get you're gonna get 1 minute. And then because we've got some other things we need to do today. But I'm going to let you, but what you continue to do is make a point that is historically inaccurate. And more than that, it's offensive.
Yes.
And I keep telling you that it's offensive and you keep on going with it, which makes it even more offensive. And I'm trying to help you here, my brother, here. Because we are all under the boot.
Yes.
Black, white, brown, yellow, and red. And yes, I included white in that because poor white folks in Appalachia have never been out from underneath the boot. They dropped 30 million opioid pills in a community of 30,000 people to numb them out because they will never, ever make it out of poverty. That's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And I'm just simply saying to you, when you say to people who understand, who've read history, you're 63 and I get you, you've lived 63 years, I got it. But what I'm saying to you is, we put children in cages. It was law. It was the law for black people to be separated from their children. That was the law.
Yes.
Because if you kept black families together, you could not have slavery. And yet and still after slavery, there are stories and they are legion, and not just legend, legion, of black people who went by foot for miles and miles and years looking for their mamas, their fathers,
their
their children, their brothers, their sisters. Stop it.
Ooh.
So when I ask you, Roosevelt, when you say we've never seen anything like this, and I say to you as a black person in America,
don't do it.
as someone, as an American, and we all share the same history now, because we're all Americans here. When I say to you that this is offensive, and you keep on going with it, when I ask you to read some history books so that you can understand the real history that we all share. That's all I'm asking you to do. And I understand your offense by Donald Trump. Yeah, I get it. Because guess what? When I saw what he did with what they did with these children, I was offended and hurt. And offended again because of what my family have been through, what the American family has already been through. I'm like, we haven't learned anything. We're still doing this. We're still doing this. We're still separating mothers from their children and fathers from their children. We're still, because it was illegal for black people to be married to each other. That's a cage. All these plantations were not just wealthy places. There were some poor plantations, and black folks lived underneath the nastiness, helping to hold this whole structure together, this society together. So I'm saying to you, watch that, because it's offensive. Not only is it historically inaccurate, it's offensive. And you can't just get offended when Donald Trump offends you. You need to be offended when Joe Biden offends me and says that black kids and white kids y'all don't want to. He said to a white group of kids, I know you black kids and white kids don't want to sit together. He was anti desegregation because he was anti-busing. You ought to be offended by that, even though he was talking about black and white kids. I'm saying to you, we're not going to grow until what hurts you hurts me. What hurts me hurts you. That's all I'm saying. So I'm just saying to you, I would encourage you, maybe I need to get a book list so you can understand some of the books that I've read and the history that is squelched in this society, so that you can understand my pain when I share with you. Don't ever say that this has just happened to my brown brothers and sisters. Oh no. Because as punishment on plantations, black men were raped in front of the whole community.
Yes.
Many of us were literally kept in cages so we would not escape. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, in fact, the Nazis studied Jim Crow in America and studied the slave system so they could figure out how to create Nazi Germany. And when Nazi POWs were brought to the United States of America, they said, wow, we don't even treat the Jewish people in Germany the way y'all treat the black people in the United States. They're writing books about that now. So I'm just saying to you, I just need you to get a deeper, broader, truer reading of history. That's all. I feel your pain and I hear your passion, and I got you. I just need it to be, like any opinion, it needs to be informed. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So you got a minute to respond.
I don't mean to offend the African American community. It's not my intent. My intent is to start my thought and finish my thought. And all I'm saying is this. You have turned this into a personal thing. In other words, you're saying that I'm a dummy. I don't know anything about African American history. I'm 63 years old. I remember Richard Pryor saying, I'm old. My mother didn't raise no fool. So I know my history, American history. I am opening my eyes because I was taught in public schools about everybody. There was a hero, our forefathers, who were all white. I get that. Now we're coming and saying it's Black History Month. It's Black America, African America. I totally agree with that. But I find it offensive that you don't think that I don't know anything about the African American community.
I never said that, honey. But you know, no, I hear you. I'm going to let you say it, but I never. But no, I will let you finish, but I'm not going to let you tell an untruth on me.
Right.
I didn't call you ignorant. I didn't call you dumb, and
And then,
I did not infer that, and I didn't imply that, and you shouldn't have inferred it. I've never done that with you, Roosevelt. I don't do that with anybody.
mm-hmm.
Now, you've taken up a lot of air. Make your point in a minute and let us go.
Okay. So all I'm saying is that we're going backwards.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to finish in my thought is by saying that little kids are being put in cages. It's not only the Latin American community Latin American community I'm talking about. You got to start somewhere. You don't think this man has the capability of putting African American people in cages? You don't think that this man has the capability of whatever reason? He's changing everything. I've never seen, my thought was this, I've never seen in 63 years a branch of the government, Mitch McConnell, the Senate, aligning with the president when their job is supposed to be there to represent their constituents. I've never seen that, okay? My thought was this, that you got to start somewhere. He's starting with he's dividing and conquering, meaning he's pointing the finger at somebody. Today, like you've said before in other programs, today is the Latinos, tomorrow's the African Americans. That's where I was going to, but you didn't let me finish my thought. I'm sorry, Santita. That is what I was going to say. You have to start with somebody. You have to point the finger at the evil. It's just like African Americans in the past. You made the point. People in the past, presidents in the past, the white race in the past, hung by trees. I remember Billie Holiday singing about it, you know. So I know a lot about this country as far as their history. That is my point. We're going backwards.
Okay, then we agree on that. We are going backwards, but you know, the price of liberty requires eternal vigilance. And that having been said, what I'm saying to you is I'm done. None of this is new. None of it's new.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not what we were getting from you, but I'm glad that you're there. That having been said, we're going to have to make a decision. We're at an inflection point in the Republic where we're going to go from here. Dr. King wrote a book more than 50 years ago. It was called Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? We have a decision to make about who we are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
All I've been trying to share with you, Roosevelt, and anybody else is who we've been. Let's not be untruthful about who we've been, about where we are, who we are. Because we've had a lot of things that we have a history of putting people in cages. That's what we do. We have a history of denying people their basic human rights. That's what we do. Now the question is, are we going to continue that? Deporting Latinos is not new. We did more of that in the Obama-Biden administration than we have ever. And Latinos are still a little salty about that, and I get it. Doesn't make President Obama an awful guy, but that did happen, and it was regrettable.
Mm-hmm.
Putting these children in cages, putting them in incubators of disease and filth, horrible things. It's horrible. And when I see it, my parents who are older than you, my mother will be 76 in another week. My father's almost 80. One of the things that breaks their hearts, and they have given their whole lives, both of them together, to making this country right, to making this world the right kind of place, because they work for a man called Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who my mother said, when I worked for him, he made me see Jesus. She said that. She said, I began to believe it. I said, wow, the way he moves with people, the way he moves people, what he wants for people, I understand Jesus a lot better now. I'm saying to you that we've done a lot of hurting of people down through the years. Now we've got a decision to make about where we're going to go from here. That's all we have to do. That's all. I'm saying none of this is unique. That's part of the problem that we have now. We keep thinking that all of this pain, I'm not talking about my father now, we're talking about Reverend Jackson. That is not my dad. My dad is my personal relationship. Institutionally, that's who I'm talking about. But I'd put Andrew Young in that. I'd put Hosea Williams. There are a whole lot of people who've worked to make the country what it's supposed to be in the world, a more just society and a more peaceful world and a more just society. That was the theme of his campaigns. That's where I met Bernie Sanders. who was one of three white men who two white elected officials in the whole of the United States who actually endorsed his campaign. All I'm talking, yeah, because no one but Jim Hightower and Bernie Sanders would come out and endorse his campaign. Nobody. Part of the reason he has my support today, because he's running almost plank for plank on the same platform. We've got to make a decision about who we're going to be, who we're supposed to be. We've locked children in cages before. We should, because we have not learned from that. We're doing it again. We did not. Well, then you need to make it more articulately, because it didn't sound like that was a point. That didn't sound like that was a point you were making.
It did not sound that.
And you have your Latina sister in here, who's my producer, who heard it and was offended. And so I was trying to help you so that you could understand, and people can't hear you unless I move you to another channel. We're going to begin to close this out. All I'm simply saying is we need to have a real reading of our history so we can know the things that we've done. All of them. And then we can make a decision about who we're supposed to be. That's all. I mean, I love the fact that you listened to Strange Fruit, which was written by a Jewish guy. Bless his heart. You know, southern leaves bear strange fruit. That's part of the story. But that's just part of the story. The fact is, the American Revolution, the first person to be killed in it was a black man. And he was in a rainbow coalition of a fight. Because black, white, and Native American people were fighting for fair wages and for labor rights. So Crispus Attucks was shot and killed in the fight for liberty and freedom and justice. And the fight and the struggle continues. That's all. And I'm saying to you, any offense anywhere, that's why I was talking about the Asian American community today. The fact that they are treated horribly is offensive to me as a human being, as their sister in the human family, period. When I see what's happening at the border, a border created by man, to the Latino community, Texas is El Norte. This is language that this is land that people say that we stole fair and square. Come on, get out of here. God doesn't have borders, man does. And my point is simply, we have got to not just do better but do right. Now is the time for us to do right and to begin to treat each other justly so that we can have the kind of world that we are supposed to have. Period. Americans have the power. You can vote. And you're going to have to push people who don't want you to vote, because the system was designed for you not to vote. Only propertied white men could vote at the founding of the Republic. And every group, including unpropertied white men, have had to fight for the right to vote. Black people were not the only people who were sharecroppers. It was just easier for white folks to get away from being sharecroppers. Got to make a decision right now, today, about how we're going to make America great, the nation that is really supposed to be. How about that? You know, I love you, Roosevelt. I'm going to go because we got some things to do. Love you, love you, love you. Hope to see you all tonight on Facebook Live, on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. We get so emotional here. But it's all good. It's all good, everybody. It's all good. I love you, everybody. I will see you tomorrow here on the Santita Jackson Show. Don't have a headache.
Sorry.
Well, you tell people what was bothering you about what you heard.
It's just like you said. Everybody. If it happened to a African American, it's gonna happen to you. Look what they did to Puerto Rico when the hurricane. You know, come on now. It's not the first time. This been going on years back. It's just I was offended. I was.
Why were you offended?
Because it made me feel like it was this just started, and it wasn't just now, and it hurt me to see how the president did the kids. These are innocent kids. Mm-hmm. It's a repeat of the history when African Americans, the family was separated. It's not the first time. It's not, and this was like, wow, really.
And if we don't learn from our history, we will continue to repeat it.
Yes, and it's not with just African American, Latinos, white, Chinese. It's everyone's gonna happen to you if we allow it. We need to come together, stop all this separation. Stop it. We all brothers and sisters. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, you know, I know that since we all have the same Father, Mother, God,
yes.
we're all brothers and sisters.
Thank you.
And that's my only point today, everybody. That, you know, we have to make some decisions about who we are.
Yes.
Okay? That's all we need to do. And if anyone's offended, if anyone's hurt, then you need to be hurt. That's all. When they unfurl a swastika behind Bernie Sanders, you need to be furious.
Yes.
Because he's trying to derail change that works for everybody. He's not a perfect messenger, but he's delivering a perfect message. I am not a perfect person. I'm just trying to do God's will. That's all.
Amen.
Perfect people don't deliver perfect messages because nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have a perfect message and you can have a perfected message. That's it. Making wealth accessible to everybody. And when I say wealth, I mean just what you need. God will supply your every need, not your every greed. The Lord's Prayer says, give us our daily bread, not the whole loaf.
Thank you.
And I'm not trying to take bread off your plate. That's what's happening to everybody now. We have to make a decision that is unacceptable. Period. The public school system didn't collapse, it's being collapsed by greedy people who want to make a for-profit system without educating our children. Shame on them. The University of Chicago is about to be $100,000 a year for an undergrad. Your child will not be able to go unless they decide to be a slave to a corporation. That's what's going to happen. Somebody will pick you up and make you a merit scholar, pay for you to go to school, and then you will owe them. Shame, shame, shame. That is not what America's supposed to be. And more than that, that's not the world that God made. Now we're going to make a decision whose team we're going to be on. So, I love you, everybody.